All right, so you're here with us today because this bill about oil drilling and presidential powers caught your eye, right?
Oh, yeah. So,
We've got this Fox News article that lays it all out, and let me tell you, it's a window into like a total power struggle that could like reshape the future of energy in America.
yeah. I mean, it's
So,
it's fascinating how this bill, the uh,
the Protecting American.
the Protecting American Energy Production Act,
Right.
zeroes in on one very specific thing, and that's stopping any future president from banning fracking.
No, I know fracking's been a hot button issue for years.
Oh, yeah.
But for those who need a refresher, can you just give us the breakdown? What is it and why is it such a political lightning rod?
Well, fracking or hydraulic fracturing is a way to get oil and gas out of shale rock deep underground.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they inject high-pressure fluids to crack the rock and release those fuels.
Oh,
It's a game changer that's made the U.S. less dependent on foreign oil.
there's always a but when it comes to energy, isn't there?
Right. Fracking has raised some serious environmental concerns.
Like what?
We're talking potential groundwater contamination,
Oh, wow.
methane leaks that contribute to climate change,
Oh,
and even the possibility of earthquakes linked to the process.
really?
It's a complex issue with passionate voices on all sides.
So this bill specifically targets fracking, not all oil and gas drilling, right?
Absolutely.
That seems like a really deliberate choice.
This isn't just about energy. It's about choosing sides in a debate that's been raging for years.
Yeah.
This bill is a direct response to actions taken by former President Biden,
Yep.
who, as you know, put several restrictions on oil and gas activities during his term.
The article specifically mentioned his ban on future drilling along like hundreds of millions of acres of coastal and offshore waters. That's a huge chunk of potential drilling territory.
Exactly. And that's why this new bill, introduced by Republican Representative August Sluder of Texas,
Okay.
is causing such a stir.
Mm-hmm.
It passed with unanimous Republican support in the House,
Wow.
while most Democrats voted against it.
Mm.
This isn't just about energy policy. It's about who gets to call the shots on a national level.
It's like Congress saying to the president, hold on, we get a say in this too.
Exactly.
This brings up that whole idea of separation of powers, right? That no one branch of government has all the power.
Precisely. One of the foundational principles of American democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And this bill is a prime example of how that principle plays out in real life, with Congress pushing back against what they see as executive overreach.
It's almost like a parent setting rules for their kids to prevent future squabbles.
Mm-hmm.
Only here, it's Congress trying to set boundaries for the president.
Right.
Speaking of pushing back, the article also mentioned that Trump's Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum,
Right.
has been busy rolling back some of those Biden-era energy regulations.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that?
Well, the Secretary of the Interior is a key player in all of this because they oversee federal lands and natural resources. Basically, they have a huge say in where and how energy companies can drill on public land.
So Burgum's actions are adding fuel to the fire here.
Absolutely. He's launched investigations into agencies he believes are putting too much of a burden on energy development.
Oh, wow.
It's a clear sign that this administration is siding with those who want to see fewer restrictions on drilling.
Okay, so we've got Congress trying to limit presidential power on fracking.
Yeah.
And we've got the Secretary of the Interior actively rolling back regulations.
Right.
It sounds like a recipe for a showdown.
It certainly raises the stakes. But before we get into the potential consequences, let's take a step back and consider the historical context.
Okay.
This isn't the first time we've seen these kinds of power struggles play out over energy policy.
No, this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
You mean there's a precedent for this kind of tug of war?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, there have been several Supreme Court cases
Wow.
that have shaped how we think about congressional and presidential authority when it comes to regulating energy. We need to understand that history to fully grasp the implications of this new bill.
All right, so let's dig into that history then.
All right.
What kind of legal battles have shaped the energy landscape we see today?
Well, to start, we need to go back to the early 20th century. That's when the federal government really started getting involved in regulating the energy industry.
So before that, it was like the Wild West out there.
Pretty much.
Right, yeah.
It wasn't until cases like the Shreveport rate cases in 1914 that the Supreme Court really established the federal government's power to regulate interstate commerce, including things like oil and gas pipelines.
So that was a big turning point then.
Definitely. It set the stage for a lot of the regulatory framework we have today. But of course, the balance of power between the branches of government is always in flux.
And this new bill is kind of shaking things up again.
It's essentially Congress saying, hey, We have a role to play here too, and we're not afraid to use it. It's a reminder that these constitutional questions are never really settled. They're constantly being reinterpreted and renegotiated as new challenges arise.
So where does this leave us? What happens if this bill actually becomes law? Could we see a fracking free-for-all across the country?
It's a possibility, and it's important to think about the potential consequences, both good and bad. More fracking could mean more jobs and lower energy prices in the short term.
Right.
But what about the long-term environmental cost?
That's what I was thinking. This bill could have huge implications for climate change, right?
Absolutely. Increased greenhouse gas emissions, potential water contamination. These are serious issues that can't be ignored. And then there's the impact on America's role in international energy markets.
Right. The U.S. is already a major energy player, and this bill could really solidify that position for better or worse. It's like we're at a crossroads, and the choices we make now will have ripple effects for years to come.
Exactly. This bill isn't just about fracking. It's about America's energy future and our place in the world. It raises fundamental questions about sustainability, economic growth, and national security. There are no easy answers, and that's what makes this whole issue so fascinating.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's break it down.
This bill, even though it's just one piece of legislation, is a sign of the political battle raging over energy in this country. It's a reminder that energy policy is about much more than just keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
It's about power politics and the future of our planet.
And it raises important constitutional questions about the separation of powers. Who gets to decide what happens when it comes to our energy resources? The President and Congress. This bill is forcing us to confront that question head on.
And while we can't predict the future, one thing is certain: the outcome of this bill, whether it becomes a law, what its actual impact on drilling and energy production will be, that's all still up in the air. Yeah.
It's a cliffhanger, for sure. And it's a reminder that we all have a stake in this debate. Whether you're passionate about climate change, concerned about energy prices, or just interested in how our government works, this bill is something you need to pay attention to.
It's a real-world example of how politics, economics, and environmental concerns collide.
Exactly. And it leaves us all with a lot to think about. So what do you think, listener?
Does this bill represent a necessary check on presidential power? Or is it a potentially dangerous overreach by Congress that could tie the hands of future leaders trying to respond to changing energy needs and environmental concerns? There's no easy answer, and that's what makes this whole issue so fascinating.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? We've gone from the nuts and bolts of fracking to the halls of Congress and even touched on some landmark Supreme Court cases.
We've explored the bill itself, the political motivations behind it, the potential implications for energy production and the environment, and of course the big constitutional questions it raises. It's been quite a journey.
It has. And I hope you, the listener, are walking away from this deep dive with a better understanding of not just what's happening in Washington, but what it all means for you, for the future of energy in America, and for our place in the world.
Remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep engaging in this crucial debate.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And if you want to learn more, be sure to check out the original Fox News article we discussed today. We'll link it in the show notes.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
It's crazy how one bill can spark such a wide-ranging conversation. We've talked about everything from the actual science of fracking to the whole balance of power in our government.
Yeah. It really shows you how these issues are all connected. Energy policy, it touches so many aspects of our lives, the economy, the environment, even national security.
And it's all happening with this backdrop of global uncertainty, right? Climate change, energy independence, the rise of renewable energy sources.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot.
It's like we're standing at a crossroads. The decisions that we made today are going to shape the energy landscape for generations to come.
So what do you think, listener? Are you feeling a little overwhelmed by all this?
I wouldn't be. The key is to kind of break it down, focus on the core principles at play. This bill, for example, it really boils down to one fundamental question. Who should have the authority to make these decisions about our energy future?
And there's no easy answer, is there? It's a tug of war between branches of government, different ideologies, different visions for America's role in the world.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to stay informed and engage in these discussions and to think critically about the information that you're consuming.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, folks, there you have it, our deep dive into the
Protecting America.
The Protecting American Energy Production Act and all the fascinating questions that it raises.
We explored the bill itself, the political motivations behind it, the potential implications for energy production and the environment, and of course those big constitutional questions at the heart of it all.
We've covered a lot of ground, but ultimately it's up to you, the listener, to decide where you stand on this issue. There's no right or wrong answer, but hopefully this deep dive has given you the tools you need to form your own informed opinion.
Remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep engaging in this crucial debate.
And hey, if you want to dive even deeper, be sure to check out that original Fox News article we discussed. We'll link it in the show notes. Until next time, keep diving deep.